Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Steve Fretzin, and you know what I'm up to. It's all about being that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. This is the podcast that does nothing but help attorneys to be their best selves, live their best lawyer lives, and have some fun along the way. And my job is to also bring you great guests. Today is no different. I've got two fantastic guests that I'm going to interview and have a great conversation with. Camille and Brenda, and we are going to start off with our quote of the show. And when you sent this to me, I got a trip out of it right away. I thought it was great. And it's by Richard Susskind, and it is, "The traditional law firm business model is broken. However, it's hard to convince a room full of millionaires that this is accurate." All right. So, you think about the rich guy, I guess, at the top of the heap, that is, been the rainmaker for his own firm or whatever it might be. He's making all this money, maybe not so great for everybody else, but that individual would have a hard time arguing that he needs to change anything. But that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about all that. So as we get into it, I mean, first of all, tell me a little bit about the idea about that quote. Like what either fascinated you about it, or why do you feel it's very obviously very clever?
Yeah, because as I talk to lawyers, I hear them talk about law firm, the business of law, as though they were still practicing 40 years ago. And I have lots of ideas and thoughts and suggestions about how to do things differently. And they look at me puzzled because they are doing great. Financially,
Yep.
the firm, is rewarding them in just the way they want to be rewarded. Now, the things that they don't have or the problems that they have are outdated pay structures, pay inequities, lack of transparency, no defined path to partnership, no succession planning. Those are problems for the whole firm. They resonate with the people around them, but the owner continues to say, "Hey, I don't see anything wrong with this. I
Yep.
built it. I'll do it the way I want."
Yep. And again, I think that's fine for certain people in certain circumstances. Brenda, how about for you on this quote?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Camille said. I think it's just really challenging. I mean, I had a partner tell me a long time ago, I don't need any new clients because all of our conference rooms are full. And I was just thinking how short-sighted that could possibly be.
Yeah.
Same when you're talking about compensation. And one of the things that we really try to impress upon the key owners of law firms is, what about everybody else and the
Yeah.
respect that you're giving them? So,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Well, much appreciated that. Camille Stell and Brenda Barnes, you are Lawyers Mutual Consulting and Services. You've got this great book, Respect and Insight to Attorney Compensation Plans, right here. You two are the experts I wanted to meet and talk about compensation with. Before we get into the weeds on that, though, I think it's good to know your backgrounds and sort of why are you two experts in this area? What brought you to this? Why don't we start with Brenda and then we'll go to Camille after that?
Yeah, sure. So I've been working with lawyers 35 plus years. I'm a CPA, I'm an MBA. I'm a Texas girl. I have worked in law firm management since I was 25 years old. So I've
Yeah.
been working with lawyers forever. Had my own billing and accounting firm that I started in 2008, sold it in 21, and then really launched my consultancy practice, and that focuses on compensation, succession, and financial management. So I'm all about the numbers,
Yeah.
Steve. So that's really kind of, my bottom line. Camille's a lot more about the touchy-feely part of our process, and I'm
But
about,
what a
well,
great team. You get the analytics side, you get the touchy-feely side. I mean, it's the partnerships that both people are the same that's
yes.
usually
Oh, we complement
problematic.
each other really well that
Yeah.
way.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Camille?
And our second
Oh,
edition book is coming out
oh,
soon. And I was
okay.
looking at it with the editor today, and I think we've doubled its size. So we've added a
Okay.
ton of new content, lots more to kind of get your teeth into. So
Awesome. All right. Well, that'll be coming out soon. We'll keep an eye on that. Camille?
Steve, I've also worked in law firms my whole career. I've worked as paralegal, attorney recruiting, business development, and marketing. I've worked with law firms as small as 7 lawyers, as large as 1,000 plus. So, like the commercial says, I've seen a few things. And I do think Brenda and I complement each other very well. The way we fell into law firm compensation planning is just taking those calls from lawyers who always who often weren't even able to identify their problem or their issue. But when we got down to it, it really started with a compensation plan that just wasn't working. And our two different approaches seem to work well with lawyers.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. So, I mean, two experts in working in legal for many, many years. And I guess, what's sort of the evolution of compensation plans? Because I think if we go back to the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, it's probably one type of model, and then now we've moved into other models. So what would you say, Camille, about how things have evolved over the last couple of years?
The thing that I look for when I'm talking to a firm about a modern compensation plan includes things like um, developing your plan to work with your law firm goals, um, transparency around your plan, having conversations with people so that they understand how they get paid.
Mm,
It's amazing, so many small firms, their comp plan is unique, right? It's formula based. They've decided a tweak here, a tweak there. The formulas are complex. There's a little bit of that benevolent owner who sprinkles some grace in if you don't meet your numbers the way you should. But it's really hard to talk about that as a plan. And as a result, if you can't describe it as a plan, how are you going to recruit lawyers? How are you going to recruit laterals to come into the firm? So, written plans with transparency, written paths to partnership with specific criteria for meeting those goals.
yeah,
That makes all the difference in the world in the success of a law firm and the sustainability of a law firm.
yeah. And those
That's
compensation plans advance the law firm's strategic goals, Brenda, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's getting away from the black box, right? That you read so much about. It's really establishing a path that is transparent. Again, we use that word, but that is transparent to all of the attorneys in the firm, so they understand. We're seeing a lot more of the two-tiered system now, the non-equity and equity plans, and for various reasons. Years ago, the non-equity classification was added, just to kind of move some of the senior associates over to a different class, but now it's really a great learning opportunity for lawyers to move in from non-equity. So regarding the strategic plans, what we always say is, you must have a strategic plan in your law firm, and if you don't, then you need to get somebody that can assist you. It doesn't have to be complex, but you need to know what your growth initiatives are and what are some of your pain points in the firm. And your compensation plan has to be part of that because you want to incentivize the partners to accomplish those goals. And we talk about the intertwine of culture and compensation plans and how one can form the other. But oftentimes, culture needs to be revisited. And sometimes, especially when you're talking about multi-generational law firms that are going from, the first, the name partners, if you will, to the second tier, third generation of group, it just needs to have a little bit more thought as to what you're really trying to motivate in your compensation plans.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
really, I,
it's
yeah, I'm sorry. I really like that you brought up the compensation plan in recruiting in the same sentence, because I feel like now I mean, I'm talking to lawyers all day, every day, and the biggest challenge they have right now is hiring, recruiting and
mm,
hiring. I mean, they are
mm,
way overworked. A lot of the ones that I'm talking to, and they struggle with recruiting. And I'm wondering if part of that is there's not a lot of attorneys, and the other part of it is, are they building a culture that includes the compensation plan that maybe goes beyond just money? So
Right.
Camille, do you want to address that first?
Yeah. I think that one of the biggest problems that lawyers have today in recruiting is the incredible amount of law school debt that recent graduates are carrying. There was an ABA study in 2020 with the Young Lawyers Division, and the numbers are shocking. More than 75% of respondents had at least $100,000 in debt when they retired. And 25% had more than $200,000. So that really limits people. So you've got folks who are maybe going to big law because they've got the grades to get there, but they also need that paycheck. And so small and mid-sized firms are going to have to find a way to compete with big law and every other employer. And if you look at it only as what can the paycheck be, you're going to be limited, right? Because revenues are just not that strong in many small firms. But if you're willing to have conversations with people about what they want in life, what they hope to accomplish, what their aspirations are, what they see for their career, and you're willing to show flexibility, encouragement, innovation, you're speaking their love language
Yeah.
at that point. And so I think that's the place where law firms have to get out of their own way, and they have to be more receptive to what a modern workplace looks like.
Yeah. Brenda?
Well, yeah, I mean, and piggyback on that, I mean, think about not only the law firm debt, but then, 6, 8 years from now, you're looking at possibly a high buy-in to be an equity partner. You put that on top of whatever their debt that's probably still being paid off, and it becomes almost, a resistance factor for the attorney. So, what owners of law firms need to do is really address that, the buy-in and the affordability of it, and making sure that when you ask somebody to the table, they deserve to be there for number one, but two, that they can afford to be there. And then you really, again, going back to the numbers, you really got to have the numbers to be able to produce, to be able to pay your way. It's the law firm's a professional service group, right? Doesn't matter if you're hourly or flat fee, you still are a professional service group. And there's only so much of that, and to increase that top line revenue. And the consideration has to be given to how to recruit and retain those associates in a way that rewards them, certainly, but also couples it with some of this more soft skills, some more soft
Okay.
areas.
Yeah. So what are like the top three things that a lawyer should be looking for in a compensation plan that, again, money is a big part of it, right? You got to make the Benjamins, but there's other aspects of a compensation plan that I think might, maybe it's how soon can I make equity? What does it take to make equity? And that's important to some people. There are a lot of lawyers that don't want to make equity. They don't want to deal with that ownership and dealing and be a part of that. They just want to do their work and make some money and sock it away, that type of thing. But what would you say are Camille, what are some of the top areas there?
If you can start talking early about what it takes to get there, that's going to make a big difference. So, um, for instance, you approach a senior associate and say, "Hey, love for you to become an equity partner. All you need to do is write me a check for $100,000 next week and welcome to ownership." That person is probably going to run as fast as they can. But if you spend time talking with them, letting them see a little bit about what's going on, I think you'll get buy-in much earlier. So that's one reason that I think having a non-equity seat is important for particularly small to mid-sized firms, right? It used to be sort of an off-ramp for big law, but I think small and mid-sized firms can make it just a part of the path.
Okay.
So you spend 2 years learning how to be a partner, learning about the financial responsibilities of being an owner, and preparing yourself for your financial contribution.
Okay.
And I think that goes a long way towards being a solid compensation plan.
Yeah.
So, having a non-equity track, having some awareness and transparency around what the financial or capital contribution will be are two important factors of that comp plan.
Okay. And what about things like healthcare, insurance, paternity, maternity leave, time off, virtual versus in the office? Are those part of a compensation plan, or are those separate?
No, that I mean certainly. So, just to kind of again what Camille was just saying, the law firm owners need to realize there's got to be flexibility in compensation plans because everyone is motivated differently, as you've just pointed out. But you also run the risk of losing some of your high performers if you don't pay attention to that they need to be compensated well. So typically that is based on their origination credit, based upon their, how much they collect, based upon their supervision of associates, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
There are also attorneys that don't want to work, 2,200 billable hours. And there needs to be a track for them that is just as fair and reasonable as those high producers. So you really have got to have a flexible compensation plan to really address the different tiers that you are going to have. We run into that all the time now with clients where it's like, well, I understand why we need to have this plan. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to meet those minimum requirements, but I'm a really good lawyer and I have some really good connections and I'm, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's got to be some flexibility that's built in to be able to accommodate, most of the lawyers that you want to retain, right?
Yeah.
So
And one of the things
And
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Brenda or Camille?
I was just going to say for benefits, I think that is a place where solo small firm, mid-sized firms can really offer something different,
Mm,
right? Look at those non-monetary incentives like flexibility, hybrid working conditions, um, I have a firm in North Carolina that is offering law school reimbursement as part of their financial package. They set aside a lump sum for those associates each year that they pay towards their law school debt.
mm.
That really gets people's attention, right? In a way that nobody else is talking about. So, ask your associates what's important to them and then develop a plan that works for them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One of the things that I'm, known for, and maybe I'm popular in the attorney community for, is helping lawyers focus on the origination piece of the compensation and getting to that $1 million, $2 million plus mark. Those lawyers seem to be very happy with me, I think I know why, and I think you know why. Can you describe a little bit, and I'm going to start with Brenda on this, the difference between someone who bills 2,000 hours a year and that's sort of their life, and then someone that maybe bills the same, but also is bringing in $1 million into the firm or more? Again, we know that takes more time, and eventually my hope is that the billable hour will go down as the originations go up so they can focus on that particular role. But can you talk through that a little bit with everybody?
sure. So I mean, when you're building a business, right, you've got to have an increase to your top line revenue. A good compensation system is going to reward partners for new business generation. Usually we see that through origination credit, right? So typically hard dollars, we see anywhere from between 15 and 25% of collections that come in that will be credited as origination credit. That is is it a defined term of origination credit, or is it in perpetuity, right? So, partners can, especially in the beginning of their careers, can build a residual income into their compensation base when they go out and get new clients for the firm that other people are working on, not them, right?
Hmm.
So, the only obstacles that the firm runs into is when you start talking about succession planning and how do you transition that client from one generation to the next, or to a partner that's the relationship partner and no longer the origination partner. But
Yeah.
you can certainly increase your compensation, and it's in the best interest of the firm. So, to encourage partners to go out and get new business. Are all partners comfortable with that? No.
No,
And
I think we
they're going
understand
to,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, they're going to be rainmakers, and then they're going to be the worker bees. And but you need to compensate those that do. That's why you're seeing so much lateral recruitment and steals. I mean, right? Because people are got portable business and they're able to walk over to another firm and get more money, and that's what
Yeah.
you want to try to hedge against.
Yeah. You want them bought into your firm. And again, having the right plan, right path, transparency, these are all factors in good culture to them not leaving. But that isn't happening like it should. Camille?
That's right.
I think some firms could plan ahead with using originations as as a tool to help with succession. So think about, whether you want to use trailing origination fees for partners who are retiring. Think about how you want to create succession plan from, senior partner to junior partner to senior associate, and different rewards along the way around origination and sharing origination. And then I would say some of the fights that I see in law firm, battling over the money is when an originated client has really become a firm client. And so every matter that comes in starts becoming a little bit of a fight over who gets a piece of it.
Hmm.
So you really need a structure around
Yeah.
You do.
originations, but it can move the needle in a very positive way for the firm if people use origination credits properly.
Okay.
Hmm.
So just as an example, if someone would make, let's just make up a number and say $250,000 doing the 2,000 hours, that's sort of what their base is for that number. And then on top of that, they're getting 20% on $1 million, right? That's 200,000. So they're
Yeah,
they're making 450 when a regular attorney's making 250.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
and just
exactly
up, and
right.
it goes up and
Hmm.
up and up from there.
Up and up and up. Yep.
Yep, yep. And again, I think the piece that I like to just tout is the, portability that you mentioned, the idea that that's your control in the relationship with the firm is if you want to make equity or if you want to have some power in that firm and their decision making and how the culture is built or whatever, you have a book of business. And if you don't like what they're doing, you can take your toy and go somewhere else or home or
That's right.
whatever. But that's really important for lawyers to understand the not only the portability but the ability to make that kind of revenue and just be in a position to really control your future.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a power base, right, for sure.
Yep. Okay.
Steve,
And then
I
yes,
also think
Camille.
it's a way for a lawyer to find more joy in their job, right? If you are out looking for the kinds of clients you want and the people that you enjoy working with, that has got to make those 2,200 hours more palatable.
Yeah.
So it just gives you, I think, much more control over what your day to day looks like, not just the revenue, which is important, but you also want to work with people that you enjoy working with, and
Yeah.
choosing your own client base is a great way to do that.
Well, and a lot of firms are getting gobbled up by bigger players or merging and things like that, and then you realize, I don't like these people. I didn't sign up to be a part of
Hmm.
this big firm, but I don't have any options now because I don't have a book of business that I can take with me. I can go out on my own and start from scratch, but that's a huge risk, and not everybody's up for that.
That's right.
Less of a risk if we talk, but it's still a risk nonetheless to not have a client base to take with you. So, I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you about was, are there any trends that are happening now that weren't happening 3, 4, 5 years ago that would be helpful to, either law firm owners or to law firm members that you would be willing to share? Camille?
I see pay transparency as a hot topic today.
Okay.
Certainly, we're seeing, some states enact legislation around pay transparency. And so, the needle's going to move as a result of that. But as long as people are working in law firms, they are talking to each other about what their pay looks
Yeah,
like.
no doubt.
And, if you are, again, trying to compete with everybody up and down the street, it's important for you to know what they're doing. And so the more that I see partners threaten associates with don't discuss pay, I mean, all that does is make them want to know more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What's
you
behind
know,
the door?
that's exactly right. So you've got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And to me, pay transparency includes what kind of time frame are we looking at for path to partnership? What are the criteria for path to partnership? How much of a book of business do I need to have in order to become partner? What does my buy-in look like? I think all of those are components of pay transparency. And then maybe a little earlier down the process too, it's just letting people know what you're compensating them for when they start in the firm as new lawyers. So for instance, I hear about gender bias a lot, right? So I think that that's something that law firms are going to have to address. But it could be as simple as, well, did you know that the reason that the lawyer in the office next to you makes more money is because they came to us with a 2-year judicial court clerkship, and we attribute dollars to that. So if you're not talking about it and telling the good side of what you're doing, then your associates are assuming the worst.
Yeah. Brenda, final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that I'm seeing, or at least we're encouraging, is kind of what Camille alluded to earlier about biases that are inherent in law firm compensation systems. That is extremely important to many now of testing those biases and making sure that they disrupt them. And we've got a bunch of programs that you can address to just make sure that, an origination credit and how it's distributed. Is it fair? And who's getting the new file, who's getting asked to be on the new litigation case, who's, that sort of thing. All of those are embedded in a compensation system. And we're starting to see more and more attention paid to that because it's important to the generations that are coming into the law firms now.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So much great information. I appreciate that so much. The game-changing podcast for today is The Financial Feminist by Tori Dunlap. Camille, do you want to share why that is a game-changing podcast? It sounds interesting.
So I think Tori is fantastic. She's extraordinarily knowledgeable. She, shares her experiences. She shares her successes and her failures. But she's really talking to young people, that generation that it's not going to be as easy for them to build wealth. It's not going to be as easy for them to be sitting in the partner's chair. It's not going to be as easy for them to come up with a six-figure, capital investment. And she's got a lot of advice and common sense, practical. Plus, she's just fun to listen to.
There we go. Brenda, any thoughts on that? Did you listen to the show as well?
I do, and it's great. So
Yeah.
I would encourage you to do so.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. The sponsors I want to thank today are myself with my Rainmakers Roundtables, working with the managing partners and Rainmakers all over the country to help them get off their island and really focus on building their law practices with things like compensation. Like I would have you guys as a guest at my Rainmaker Roundtables to talk about comp and to answer tough questions and consult them, because these questions are coming up and they're sharing their own ideas about it and what they're doing openly in a confidential environment. but they love when I bring in marketing experts, time management experts, anything that where they're kind of feeling some pain and they're looking to get some help on that subject. So that might be an offline conversation. And of course, Rankings.io, helping everybody with their mostly personal injury, but focused on websites and SEO and pay-per-click and just getting the lead generation going for firms that need it. If people want to reach out to you, Camille and Brenda, to learn more about your business, they can pick up your book on, I'm assuming, on Amazon, right?
That's right.
An Insight to Attorney Compensation Plans. And what are the best digits for them to find you if they want to reach out to you about their comp plan?
Connect with us on LinkedIn. That's an easy place to do it.
Okay.
And we will definitely respond. And we both have websites, lawyersmutualconsulting.com and brendabarnesmanagement.com.
Yeah. And that'll all be in the show notes. So you guys don't have to worry if you don't have a pen, you're driving, keep your eyes on the road and just go to the show notes. And thank you both. Thank you guys for reaching out and for meeting with me and sharing your wisdom. I appreciate it so much.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Good. And thank you everybody for spending time with us today on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. Oh man, it's whether you're a lawyer that is feeling the pain of not understanding the compensation and the lack of transparency, maybe you have some questions you can ask or some things that might help to draw out some clarity. And if you're managing a firm, again, the importance of building culture with a compensation plan that's going to get you the right people, all good stuff. Everybody, it's all about helping you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and skilled rainmaker. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We will talk again very soon.